Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode on my Roblox How-To series on everything that you need to know about how to make Roblox games. So, in the last episode, we talked about while loops and what they are, how they work, etc. This time, we're going to expand on the concept of while loops, and I'm going to introduce you to something called a for loop. So let's open up our script here that we had. So we had this little thing where we were looping through and changing like the position of this part like that. Pretty straightforward. So now we're gonna use a for loop, but not for this. Not for moving the position. We're gonna do something different. So essentially, let me lay down the concept of what a for loop is first of all. So a for loop, what it does is it will iterate through a set of things that you give it, like a table of things. If you gave it a table, which I'll get into later, is like something that you could tell a for loop to go through, and every single time that a for loop goes through, it gets to another section in that table. So, let me show you how to set up a for loop. So you type for, and then you need to type I, comma, v in pairs, parentheses, do, and then hit enter, and then you get the end here. So you might be wondering, what the heck does for IV in pairs do mean? Well, what for IV in pairs do means is, let's just break it down word by word. So for tells the script that this is a for loop, and then I, comma, v, I stands for index, and v stands for variable. And I'll expand on that in a little bit when we have a little bit more of a foundation for this loop. And then in pairs, whatever's in parentheses here, in the pairs part, is what the for loop is going to iterate through. So if I put like a table in here, then it'll iterate through the table. And then do is just do the stuff that's inside of here. So let me explain how to make a table real quick. So the way you make a table, you set it up kind of like a variable. So you do local, and then you call it what you want. Let's just call it table for now, and then equals. But then now we have to put curly brackets. And then you're going to put all your stuff inside of this table. It's easier to see it visually when you indent it like this, but you can always do it on a single line if you want to conserve like lines of code and stuff like that. But just so you can see it a lot better visually, I'm going to leave it in the indented way. So now we can start putting things inside of this table. Like let's just put some fruits. Right? Apple. Just put the string apple, and then we have to put comma, and then the next part in the table. So if you don't put a comma, then it'll get mad at you. So you need to put a comma after every single variable inside of the table. Orange, banana, lemon, grape. We'll just go with that. So now we have this. And now we can tell it to iterate through table. Right there. So when it iterates through table, that's where I can now explain what I and V really are in depth. So, I said I was index. So when it's cycling through this table, on the first run that it loops, it'll get to apple right here. So the I is the index, right? So this is the first variable in the table, or index 1. And if you're coming from a different coding language, like Java or something, some of them start at 0, but in Lua or Roblox Studio, they start at 1. And then orange would be 2, banana would be 3, lemon would be 4, and grape would be 5. So that's how I is. And then V is the other part, which is the actual variable itself. So V stands for variable. So if we told it to print V, it would print apple, and then when it looped back to the top, then orange, and then it would keep doing that until it was done. If you told it to print I, then it would print 1, and then it gets back to the top, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. So, let's do that. Let's print I, and then let's print V. So then if I hit run, and we look over here in our output, we see we have 1, apple, 2, orange, 3, banana, 4, lemon, 5, grape. So everything worked out pretty well. And also, I should probably mention that they don't always have to be I and V. You can name these whatever you want. Just know that it's always index first and then variable. So whatever the first one is will be the number, and then the second one will be the variable. So I could tell this to be number in table, and then this to be fruit. And then we could do the same thing just with the different variables. Number in table, and then print fruit. And it'll do the exact same thing it did last time. Boom. So, also with for loops, you can iterate through more than just tables. You can actually iterate through even like children inside of parts. So if I wanted to iterate through everything inside of the workspace, I could do for, let's just switch it back to I and V for now. For I, V in pairs, and then we type workspace, and then I say print V. It'll just print all the things inside of the workspace. It'll print camera, terrain, script, spawn location, baseplate, and part, because that's everything we have in there. Okay. So, we got an error message. Why did we get an error message? Because we just told it workspace. We didn't tell it everything inside of workspace. So actually, we need to use a new little nifty thing called get children, and it does what the name implies. It'll get the children inside of whatever you're telling it to. So workspace : get children gets the children inside of the workspace, which is all this right here. So now if we run it, it prints everything: camera, baseplate, terrain, spawn location, script, and part. And it's actually, I think, in the exact same order that it is in the Explorer, which is pretty nifty. And I can also do something like, with our part, I can just start inserting random things into it, like that, just willy-nilly, like that. And then I can tell it to iterate through all the children inside of our part get children. And then, there we go. Now we can do more than just printing, because for loops can be very powerful. Let's say I wanted to change all of the all of the names of everything inside of the part to be monkey. Let's do v.name equals monkey. And then once we do that, and we look inside the workspace, everything that we have is now monkey. And then if we hit stop, then it goes back to normal. We could even insert something into every single one of these parts. Like, if I wanted to insert let's just go with this folder, right? Let's just name it testing folder. And I wanted to clone this testing folder, and I wanted to put it into every single one of these. So let's make a variable real quick. Folder clone equals workspace dot testing folder colon clone. I don't know if I've gone over that, but that's how you clone an object. So then we can do folder clone dot parent equals v. So then we'll have the folder clone, or the clone of all these of this folder, and every single one of these will have that same folder inside of it. So let's run it and look in here, and now all of these have the it's their own individual testing folders inside of them. We can even check to find specific things. Like, let's say we wanted to do if v.name. Let me specify what we're doing. If I wanted to iterate through everything and find the decals, only the decals. So I'll make like 3 decals, and then we'll have a ton of the other random stuff. So v.name double equals decal. Then let's just change its name to something like Joey. So all the decals will now be called Joey, and nothing else will be affected. That was my bad. I didn't do the correct capitalization. Okay, there we go. No errors anymore. Alright, so they're no longer called decal, they're called Joey. So, pretty simple to do that. And then if we wanted everything else to be called, mouse. Let's just go with mouse. And then all these will be called Joey, and then the click detector, proximity prompt, material variant, and cone handle adornment, they'll be called mouse. So, look, mouse, mouse, Joey, 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 mouse, mouse. Boom. So we could even take this a step further, and we could put a for loop inside of another for loop. So I've changed the naming here to just child, since I don't want to use v twice, since it'll confuse the script. But let's say we wanted to iterate through this, and we wanted to find the proximity prompts, or the decals. Let's just make it easier since we already have 3 decals. I'll just minimize it to 2. So we have 2 decals here, and those decals each have a couple folders inside of them, like that. And then we can put like a ton of folders inside of here too. So each of the decals has a ton of stuff inside of it. And we want to find the decals, and then we want to change all the folders to be named something. So we iterate through this, and the reason why I'm using a for loop and not just like dot decal or find first child or something like that is because there's multiple of them, so we want to affect all of them which is why we loop through it. So if child.name equals decal, then we're going to create another for loop, but this time we're going to iterate through child colon get children, do, and now we have this. So then we can just change v.name to be Gerald. Let's go with Gerald. So it'll find each of the decals and then it'll change the folders' names to all be Gerald. So you run this, got no errors, that's good. And then we look into the decals and the folders are now all called Gerald. I think another thing that I should mention as well is that in the previous episode when we talked about the break word for while loops, that can also be true for a for loop. So we can break it and we can even improve this by doing child.name equals Gerald here, but then once it reaches a decal, or actually we should probably not change its name, because then the decal's name will be changed to Gerald before it checks it. So we'll do this. If child.name is decal, then break, which will stop the for loop. Else, name it Gerald. So it'll continue to name things Gerald, and then it hits the decal, and then it halts the loop. So when we ran our code, it's actually, it's kind of a bad example. It started on decals. That was the first thing that it got to. So it broke the first time. It broke the loop. So let's try click detector. See if it does anything. Some things got renamed. This. It might do things in alphabetical order. I don't know how it... No, it doesn't do it in alphabetical order. I don't know how it decides which one to do first, or what the priorities are and stuff like that. But here's a good example of how you can do that. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And I'm actually trying to start a new series on this channel where I will take viewer requests for videos on anything that you're confused about in Roblox Studio, or just want to learn more about, or anything along those lines. Put them in the comments and I will try and get to you and make a video about it. So, that's going to be it for this video, and the next video will be a surprise because it'll be the first project that we do. I will see you there.